So Brock has been working on this documentary project called the Daredevil Society for a while. Tell me what your big goal is for that. Well, tell me what your big career goal is in general and how that fits into it.
I mean, I think the original idea was like a way to break into Hollywood, I guess was like the real generic term. Like I could make this documentary from here. It's about things I'm interested in. I'm in North Carolina. And I done a bunch of interviews, so I saw a few documentary filmmakers making documentaries without talking heads. So I could do the interviews over the phone or over Zoom, find the footage myself, work with some archival people, make it mostly fair use, and make it at least like make the whole movie without having to raise a ton of money to do it. And then really the raising the money and some of the complications come like after the movie was done. So that was kind of the first idea of just like a logistical way to make a documentary, from my office with one person basically.
So that's that Robert or Rodriguez approach in a sense. Like look around, what resources and access do you have? You're a professional podcaster, and so you're like, I can do interviews and I can put together a documentary, and you love the subject. So all that's really great. You ran into an obstacle recently about concerns on licensing some of the footage.
I'm just not as sure about, for whatever reason, like I thought I would get to a point where there's a clear cut case of like how to use fair use and how not. And I probably talked to like 10 archival producers and clearance experts and fair use and whatever. And there's not really like a cheat sheet. It's kind of like everyone has a different interpretation of it. And it could take my movie, which basically has cost $0 up till now, and now all of a sudden it's 50,000, 100,000 for lawyers, or more than that if I have to pay, Warner Brothers to access to clips and stuff like that.
So once you realized that that could be costly, you thought, well, maybe I'll put something together to actually pitch Netflix, HBO, other places in town. Is that right?
That's kind of what I'm thinking now. So I've talked to some documentary people. Some people, again, it's kind of like fuzzy about exactly what the next step is, but some people recommend a pitch deck. Others recommended a trailer or a new teaser. And I've done some teasers, but updating those. And we've also done like an hour of the movie, but it's just like finding the best, kind of 1 minute version to showcase what we've been working on.
Yeah, in my experience, that's generally dealer's choice. You get to, if you're strong on pitch decks, you could do it that way. But you're strong with editing and voice. Like I would suggest for you, some sort of, small clip or teaser, and then, yeah, and you've got you've got. Have you been getting into conversations with people who have those sort of connections at some of those places?
A little bit. I mean, through the podcast, I've got more on the other side of Netflix. So like we come with a list of maybe 15 people, but they're more like PR people. So they're on the other end of like they're not on the buying list. But I think I've just met enough people. I've done 700 podcast episodes with industry people. I could probably, put a list together to figure out like what might be a good next step or how to arrange those meetings.
Yeah, so I think for you getting into conversation with the people that you're friendliest with, and there's that old adage, if you want money, you ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money. And so you're not asking them to, hey, can you walk this into your contact? You just say, hey, I've got this project. Um, and do you happen to know somebody, maybe at Netflix or whatever, who might be interested in this? And if so, what would be a good way for me to approach them? So you're really asking for advice on how to move forward. And then if then they can just give you advice or be like, I don't know. Or they could be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Actually, I do think those dots will connect. I'll make that introduction. So you're putting yourself in a situation and them in a situation where they don't have to say no. They can just help you or go, I'll try to help you some other time if I can. So do you have you been doing conversations like that?
We really just kind of gathered the list in the last like week or so of like who we may reach out to next. Yeah.
Okay. So then I would say for you in the next week, either start putting together at least the ideation for like what kind of concept trailer that you'd put together. Like I like to get things on paper and get feedback on that first so you don't spend 10, 20 hours putting something together and realize the whole idea of it wasn't quite the best thing possible. And in general with these teasers, they're usually too long, like 95% of them are too long.
Yeah.
So, a banging 30 seconds is going to be definitely better than a pretty good 3 minutes, you know.
Yeah, I had my editor go through and like pull some quotes, and we've studied like The Last Dance and some other like, you know, uh, comps and things like that. So he pulled stuff like a lot of people think that a stuntman has a death wish. Well, your good stuntmen do not. I'm afraid of dying. I do not. I'm not out for the thrills of it. This is my job. So we pulled stuff like that, and he's kind of just putting this like things together, video and quotes, and we're going to start working around it like that.
Okay, that's great. So as you were saying that, I felt that tension in my belly.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I want you to cut for. So I want you, whether it's 30, start at 30 seconds, I want you to create a 30-second piece where I'm looking at it or anybody in the audience and they're feeling that tension sustained for 30 seconds. And
Yeah.
then maybe do 45 or 60, but like any bit beyond, it's not just holding attention, it's holding attention with real thick, like, holy crap, that guy's jumping off a building. And your visuals are going to be bonkers. So
Yeah.
like, but discipline yourself to it's got to hit that high bar of like, holy smokes, I want to see this. Once it dips emotionally, and that almost always happens with these things because people think, oh, it's got to be longer. I got to tell them more. No, no, no. They just want the emotional hit. And so
Mhm.
as long as you can deliver the emotional hit, then earn, and it doesn't need to be longer than a couple minutes, but
Yeah.
definitely start with like a 30-second because you can iterate and make sure you get it. I mean, you could tell one story about one stunt in 30 seconds and it could be amazing.
Yeah. Okay. And then like
So the
when
takeaway,
you do the reach out and things like that, I mean, hypothetically, am I showing them something? Am I just saying in a couple lines like, here's the idea, we've gained 40 million views a month on Instagram. Do I say the leverage points in the what I guess that's something we can talk about the next call, but like generally speaking, what do I gather for the pitch to the next step?
I can take a look at it specifically, but the ratio is the ask matches the relationship, right? So whatever your relationship is, obviously with me, you could ask anything, right, in depth. But with somebody who's, you as a colleague that's a little, you just want to, you know, bring attention and appreciation to whatever that person's doing in their life. And then, advice is such a low ask. That's why that's a good one. So I would get into those conversations because they take some time. And then wherever you're at, just be like, well, here's where I'm at. I'm making this thing. It's tied in with, the Oscars are going to be having stuntmen as a category coming up soon. Here's a work in progress teaser that I have. Put the warmer people on your list up first. And then but let it be organic and just remember that make sure the ask matches the relationship and then it'll organically build from there, or they'll just be like, okay, cool, I'll keep it in mind, and they'll move on. So what we're really looking for them is them to make a decision, whether it's they're going to help us or decide not to help us. Either way, that's a win. You're not like going, oh, they're going to reject me. That's not it. You're showing up, you're helping them make a decision. And the decision is going to be they're going to give you advice or say they can't give you advice. And then that opens the door for them to actually help more, more fully if it's an option for them. That makes
Gotcha.
sense?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, good. Well done.